So if you had a $1,000 mortgage payment, write a ratio of the principal to the interest. So remember, near the start of your mortgage, you have, out of your $1,000, there's a lot of interest. And then at the end of the mortgage, you're paying less on the interest. Okay, so we could be like 500 interest, 500 principal. Kind of by the end, maybe out of your $1,000, only 200 is going to the bank and 800 is going onto your principal. Okay. There's a question in your test about the graph. Like, what does that look like on a graph? Do you remember that question in your booklet? You had something like that or something, right? Kind of what's happening with your interest? What's happening with your principal? Kind of think about that question in your booklets. Okay? So maybe look that up. Anybody remembering some kind of question they've seen with those kinds of graph visuals? Page 4. Okay? Page 4. Okay, what are the pros and cons of buying versus renting? So what are some good things about buying? And we can talk about costs. Let's talk about anything. So buy, the best thing is that you have equity, right? At the end, you have something to show. You gain some money with something, right? You can make changes that you want, right? You can paint the wall if you want to paint the wall. What are some good things with renting? Easy to budget, right? You don't have those unforeseen costs. So renting, it's like every month seems to be very similar. Easy to move, right? So if you don't know you're going to be in a place for very long, aka like when I went to university, I knew I wasn't living there, so I rented, right? Okay. Let's talk about costs. So both people have to pay hydro and utilities, right? Usually, unless you're renting like a basement suite. Those kinds of things go to both people. Property taxes. That's just for people who buy houses. When you rent, you don't have to do that. Repairs, right? If you have to fix the shingles, that's just for somebody who buys a house, not for somebody who rents. That's why it's easier to budget, right? Home insurance. People who rent should get renter's insurance as well, but it'll be like a little bit of money, and this would be a lot more money, right? Do you see what the difference would be in those two people? This person's insuring the whole house and the values inside, and this person's just insuring their stuff, their furniture, their clothes, right? That's whatever. Okay? So obviously this is going to cost a lot more. Anybody think of anything I missed? Okay? So on your test, be able to talk about that. You might have some word answers. Okay? Got it? Okay, we took out a loan for 28 grand. Monthly payments. interest compounded. Okay, how many payments will you have to make? Okay, so give me a 28,000 previous, a negative 600 with 12 on the PV or PY. Give me the 4.2 semi-annually. Future 0. Okay, are we matching? I'm getting a decimal, 50.99, something, something, something. Okay, so how many payments would we make? You always go up, no matter what. Even if that was 50.2, you still will have to make a 51st payment. Okay, what does this mean? It means you're doing 50 full payments and plus one that's not the full $600. Okay, so but you're always doing another payment. What is the interest that the bank will get? Okay, so we have to do the N. We have to copy and paste it. We will do that. Times 600. So we did $600 almost 51 times. Okay, so again, get to your blank screen, get to your apps, but then to the VARs side of it. N. So you make $600 payments that many times. Okay, so that is you paying that much money, okay? So over the years, that's how much money you did. So how do we do interest? How much I've paid minus what it should have cost. So how much did the bank get out of the deal? Okay, so on this one you're going to do furniture purchase. Right through the store you're going to buy your furniture. Here's our interest compounded daily. We got to think about this. There's a cash back. We'll have to think about that. And then we got a regular monthly, $200. Okay, so let's go with I. 18.6 is the I. Compounded daily, so the daily is 365. Give me a regular monthly payment of 200. Give me that. How do you put that in? Regular monthly payment. Okay, I'm not starting with $4,500 though. We got to do some work. Okay, so what does a cash back mean? It's kind of like a sale price, right? So 4,500 times that percent. Okay, cash back. It's like a sale. You can also, you might see the word rebate. I think we've had that in there. So if you're getting a rebate, you're getting cash back, you're getting a sale on it. So what am I going to be paying for this furniture now? How much will this, so if I get a sale, does that make sense? Okay, so now this is the start of my loan. Start of my loan, and I want to end the loan. Okay, does that make sense? Because you're going to see somewhere on your test, it'll say there's a rebate or a cash back incentive. So you do that before you start the loan, okay? Think of when you buy your clothes on sale, okay? Okay, so figure out the N again, I guess. $27 and change, matching. Okay, so how much would this cost me? So I'm going to do a $200 payment that many times. The $200 payment that many times. Okay, so that's a copy and paste again, right? And then that's the final. I didn't ask for interest. I just said what do you pay in the end? So just that. So the last question I said interest. This one was just costs. Okay, car question. This is very similar to the one on your test. Okay, so you buy a car, but you put a down payment on this car. Okay, so let's just stop and do that right away. So day one, I paid $2,000. So now I need to borrow the rest, right? So that is going to be the start of our loan. Okay? I had somebody on a test who added that once. That's not what you're doing, right? You're paying that and then it's coming off the price. Okay, so we're going to finance the rest. Give me a 4.6. Put that in. Compounded monthly. Regular payments for 4 years. Oh, we should have said probably regular monthly payments. Sorry, that should probably be in there to specify, right? Regular monthly payments for 4 years. So payments, doesn't look like I know. Regular monthly payments. And then our future is 0, right? What do we put for N here? We're making regular payment, monthly payments for 4 years. So what do you make sure you put at the top? monthly payments for 4 years, right? Don't forget that times are in there. It's not just 4. You got to do all the payments for 4 years. Okay, so give me your monthly car payment amount. Okay, that seems reasonable. Make sure your answers seem reasonable. On a test once, it was somebody had, I don't know what it was, ridiculous, $200,000 per month on a house payment or something. Like, ooh, okay, that's a lot. That's okay. And obviously on your calculator it says negative, but you're not going to write me negative, right? You just say this much per month. Okay, let's talk about everything that came out of your pocket. You did this payment. We're going to copy and paste it. How many times did you do that? You did it 12 times a year for 4 years, right? So all that's coming out of your pocket. So you can do a copy paste. So once I get it on my screen, I usually times it by -1 and then work. So I paid all that out of my pocket. But was there other money that left my pocket? Yeah, on day 1, remember that I did that. So that also came out of my pocket. And you should have understood that because this number was less than the car was anyway, right? There's no way that you're going to be paying less than the car price. All the stuff that came out of my pocket. Does that make sense? Okay, so I paid this out of my pocket, but now we're going to sell our car and we're going to get money back to our pocket, right? So let's talk about the sale of our car. So remember when you bought your car, it was worth $16,700. And it depreciated 20% every year. So what is my multiplier number if it depreciated 20%? How do you go down 20%? 0.8. And then that's per year. So we remember that we are doing this for 4 years. So how much do you get to sell your car for? Isn't that a little bit depressing? Oh, my first car that I ever bought, I actually bought a brand new car. And then, oh, it just hurt when I sold it 5 years later for like that much money. It was a $20-some thousand car, and then I sold it for that much 5 years later. It was just so depressing. But that's, yeah, it just goes downhill so fast. Okay, so you out of your pocket, but then this came back into your pocket. So can you give me the difference of those numbers? This subtract that. Okay, I would like to say that that question is almost identical to a test question. Probably different numbers though, but you know what I mean? you're doing that, you're getting a car, you got your down payment in there, you're going to sell your car at the end. It's probably going to depreciate on the test, okay? Got it? You're going to nail that one on the test. Okay, so this one is comparing a mortgage with just what's going on with different payments. Okay, so we're going to start both of them at 30 or 322. $2.9 on both. Compounded 12 on both. Future value 0 on both. We're going to do them both for 25 years. So for the end, can you go 25 times? 25 times, because we're going to have, this will be different though. Okay, so now let's see what's going on. On this person, they're going to be doing regular monthly payments. So can you give me a 12 there and a times 12 on the top? Okay. Ready on this one? They're doing regular weekly payments. So we're going to do, what is the week number? 52 times 52 at the top. So do you always see whatever you put here is a times or up there, right? Got that? Whatever you put here, payments, times are up there. Okay, so let's just do A. Just give me A, because we're going to have to keep that number and work comparing the costs. So give me A. $15.10. Okay, don't erase it. Don't go to the other side yet, because I need to do all the stuff yet. So I'm going to be doing the total costs. So I'm going to do the payment times 12 times 25. So if I pay that every month for 25 years. If I pay that, so give me a copy paste. There's a little bit of interest, right? Look at your house. It was only $322 and now you're paying that. Okay? Think about how much the bank is getting on the interest. Lovely. It's almost, I almost feel like people pay like double in the end for their housing. Okay, that was good. Okay, flip to B. You go back to your app. You're only changing a couple things, right? Just changing the N and the payments. Okay, here's a really tricky thing on your test. As soon as you change this, it just changes that. So please keep your eye on that. As soon as you change your payments, the C thing also just changes. So make sure that you go back to C. Because I get that a lot on the test, that people are just making that mistake because they just don't look that it changed. Okay? Okay, that's your number, but don't forget that's every week that you're doing this, so that's a good amount, right? That would be pretty low if it was a monthly payment. So what are we timesing it by? Every week for 25 years, right? Every week for 25 years. Okay, so which one ended up being less cost to you? Looks like the weekly one, okay? The more that often you can make payments, the better off it will be. Obviously, when you compare, let's see if that number, okay, that's good. Do you guys know all your words? What if I did semi-monthly? What does that mean? You know your words? What does semi-monthly mean? How many times a year would that end up being? What are you doing?
It would be 26, which is half year.
Twice every month.
24.
Half of 52.
24.
So 26.
Semi-monthly. What does semi-annually mean? Twice a year. So what does semi-monthly mean? Twice a month.
No, that's for every other.
This one.
If you do it every other week.
Bi-weekly. Bi-weekly means every other. Every other. So then this one would be, that's 26. Semi-monthly is like if I get paid, that's how I get paid. Like on the 15th of every month and the 31st of every month. So I get 24 paychecks, right? Think of semi-annually, because you know that that's twice a year. So then semi-monthly is twice a month. Okay, but this is good. You might have some different things like that going on in your test, wink wink. Semi-monthly, bi-weekly. Okay, so this is the question that I'm wondering if you want to wait till Friday to do. I printed it separately. This would be your long question. Okay? You ready? You're going to buy a house, but you're going to put a down payment on it. Okay, that's it. Give me your down payment for your house. Day one, what are you putting into this thing? So that's why people have to save up to buy a house, right? The bank says we need a down payment from you, and that's a lot of money. Okay, so then how much do you have to borrow? Okay, so this is the loan that I need to borrow from the bank. So give me that. That's my previous, my future is 0. That's the loan. Okay, here we go. We're gonna do a 20-year amortization. So that's 20 years times, just leave that, 20 years times. We have a 3.1 compounded monthly. Oh, we just talked about it. We're going to make regular semi-monthly payments. So what did we just say here? semi-monthly. 24. So there's my times there at the top. 24 is the times there. Okay, and then we're going to move later. So then this is just after. Let's talk about this. We're going to be moving in 15 years, but let's get our payment right away here. So think about that. You're probably paying that on like the 15th of every month and then the 30th of every month. I got somebody who's not matching me. Does anybody else match me? Jaden, did you make sure that this didn't switch to 24 at the bottom? Okay, let's jump to this one here. How much has left my pocket? How much has left my pocket? So I made that payment. So this is for 15 years because I'm only living here for 15 years and then I'm going to move. So if this came out of my pocket 24 times a year for 15 years, plus, don't forget, what did you do? You put that down payment on day one. So that's all the money that has left your pocket. This payment 24 times a year for 15 years and your down payment have all gone out of your pocket. Can you get me a number with that? Yay or nay if anybody matches? Okay, so let's go back to our mortgage. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put this up here. Okay, so we're going to leave most of the stuff the same, the 3.1, the start. Okay, so this time we're saying if we started with this and we made these payments, in 15 years, what do I still owe on this mortgage? Right? Because you don't pay your mortgage off. Because don't forget, the bank was making you pay it off in 20 years, but you moved. So let's see, what did we knock this down to? So what do we have to put up here for n? Because that would change. We're saying for 15 years. So 15 times 24, right? Because we always do, there's always a timeser in there, whatever that number is. Okay, so can you see what do you have left with the bank? 72,000, anybody? Number? Okay, so I still have to give the bank that much money yet. Okay, so now remember we sell our house. So let's talk about the sale of our house. So we started with a $275,000 house. Okay, we appreciated 1.7% every year for 15 years. I need to write what as a multiplier if I'm appreciating. %1.7% above 100%, right? Is that what you wrote down? Okay, so tell me, you're supposed to say yes to that question, right? Okay, so do you see what's going on here? Let's talk about bad money, good money. So this and this, right? We're going to be putting that, adding that together. Those are all cost stuff. And then this is money coming back, right? So give me that, subtract that, and we'll see what the difference at the very end is. All the things that cost me money versus the money that I was getting back. Are we getting that number as a value? But you got a negative on it, right? What is this telling you? That you actually had no costs in the end. You actually made money on the day that you moved out. If you compare the difference, you actually profited more than all your costs. That's pretty sweet. So you had no costs, right? Your costs.
Did you get it? I didn't get it.
You didn't get that number?
I didn't get a negative. I got that number, but I didn't get it.
Did you do all the yellow stuff minus the pink stuff?
Yeah.
Well, when I added
Like, I added
that,
them and then you-
when I added that, that was less than that.
Yeah, I didn't.
Maybe you just did it the opposite way.
I think I did it the opposite way.
Yeah. Yeah, you just would have to look at that number. Because that number was like 349, I think, or something. So then my yellow number was less than the pink number. Okay, this exact Same test question, okay? So that will be on Friday. You're going to do this for 15 minutes. Hopefully that was it. On Friday, the second part of the test. Got it? 15 minutes, just this one question. Okay, let's put at the bottom here. Let's compare somebody who is renting though. Okay, so they rent for 15 years. What do you think a good number is for a renter? Give me some ballpark number. How much are you paying for rent? 1,600? 1,600? Is that what you said? You're going to pay that per month. Let's say you paid that for 8 years. And then guess what happens to rent when you live places? If you live there long and long and long, guess what happens? The rent will probably have to increase. And then let's say that the landlords increase the rent, and now all of a sudden you're paying $2,000 a month. So then that would be for the last 7 years that happened to you. Okay, so how much did this person pay to live for 15 years? What did they pay out? Okay, so what kinds of things are we learning about life? We have this person who bought the house. All this yellow was like 349,000 whatever. So they did pay more out of their pocket technically than this person, but when you buy a house, you get equity. So you can always get something back, right? Renting, now they got nothing back. That's just a straight up, that's what it cost me now. Okay, so the out-of-pocket part, the person who bought actually spent more out of their pocket, but they had that equity coming back. Okay, last question. Okay, we have some approval questions. Okay, so wanting to go for bank loan. So let's talk about assets, liabilities, and then you have a formula that you would get on your test. Okay, so what's an asset? The value of my house is an asset. Liability is a mortgage with the bank. Savings account, good. Student loans, bad. Credit card debt, bad. Okay, so these are the formulas. I'm not going to give you these numbers, so you need to make sure before your test, your debt to equity, 50%. Remember, like you don't want 50% means I'm having more debt than equity. And then this magic number is 32, so you just have to remember that one. Okay, so we're going to work with debt to equity. So the formula goes as follows. Your total liabilities. So that's the 23 number. You can follow the formula. Minus your mortgage. So what do you have left on your mortgage? That's the 190 number. Divided by your net worth. Okay, I guess I should probably do that because I will forget. Got to print you those formulas, right, for your test. So, is this person going to get a loan from the bank? Yes or no? And I need a why. So I should see yes. And the reason is because that number ended up being below 50%. Okay, if that number is like a 48, 49%, you can still reject them because you can just say it just looks too risky still, but that would be discretion. Okay, there are other types. So I didn't do a debt to equity. So I have some practice for you with that one. I might do this question where it says, would they get approved? Or the other type is, what is the max payment they can do? There's two types of those. So I will give you some on a nice review that I made.